Everyone thought I was just a small town car mechanic who got lucky marrying a billionaire. Even Daniel's family treated me like dirt. But when armed robbers crashed our wedding, they discovered something about me that shocked everyone, including my own husband. Before I tell you how my wedding day became a battlefield, make sure to hit subscribe and ring that bell. This story will blow your mind, with twists you'll never see coming. Trust me, nothing is what it seems. My name is Sarah, and 6 months ago I was just another greased mechanic in a small town called Millfield. I owned a tiny auto repair shop that barely kept me afloat, but it was mine. Every morning, I'd tie my hair back, slip into my work coveralls, and get my hands dirty fixing engines. It wasn't glamorous, but it gave me peace after everything I'd been through. That Tuesday in March changed everything. A sleek black Bentley pulled up to my shop, steam pouring from under its hood. Out stepped the most handsome man I'd ever seen. Tall, dark hair, perfectly styled, wearing a suit that probably cost more than I made in 3 months. He looked completely out of place in my little garage. "Excuse me, can you help? My car just died," he said, and his voice was smooth like honey. I wiped my hands on my coveralls and walked over. "Let me take a look." One glance under the hood told me everything. "Your radiator hose burst. It's an easy fix, but you'll need to wait about an hour." He seemed surprised that I knew what I was talking about. Most people assumed because I was a woman I was just pretending to understand cars. But this man, Daniel Harrison, as I later learned, actually listened to me explain what went wrong and how I'd fix it. While I worked, we talked. He was fascinated by my knowledge of engines, asking questions about different car models and repairs. Most wealthy people treated me like I was invisible, but Daniel seemed genuinely interested in what I had to say. When I finished the repair, he insisted on paying double my usual rate. "Would you maybe like to get coffee sometime?" he asked as he was leaving. I almost laughed. This man in his expensive suit asking out a mechanic. But something in his eyes seemed sincere. Sure, I heard myself say that coffee turned into dinner, which turned into long walks and late-night conversations. Daniel told me he was the CEO of Harrison Tech, a billion-dollar company his father had built. I told him about my shop, my love for fixing things, and my quiet life in Millfield. What I didn't tell him was why I'd chosen such a simple life, or what I was running from. 3 months later, he proposed. Not with some grand romantic gesture, but during a quiet evening at my tiny apartment above the shop. "Sarah, I've never met anyone like you," he said, getting down on one knee. "You're real, you're genuine, and you make me feel like myself instead of just my bank account. Will you marry me?" I said yes, but part of me wondered if I was making a huge mistake. Daniel knew Sarah, the mechanic, but he didn't know who I really was before I became that person. The moment I met Daniel's family, I knew I was in trouble. His mother, Catherine Harrison, was everything I expected from a billionaire's wife. Perfectly styled, dripping in diamonds, and looking at me like I was something unpleasant. She'd stepped in. "So, you're the mechanic," she said when Daniel introduced us at their mansion. "Not nice to meet you or welcome to the family, just the mechanic," like it was some kind of disease. Daniel's sister Amanda was even worse. 25 years old, never worked a day in her life, and made it her mission to remind me that I didn't belong. "It's so interesting that Daniel is marrying someone so different," she said with a fake smile. "I mean, we've always wondered what kind of woman could catch his attention away from all those successful business women and socialites he used to date." Their father, William, was more subtle, but just as cold. He'd nod politely when I spoke, but never really engage. I could see him calculating in his head, how much damage would this marriage do to the family reputation? The worst part was the comments they thought I couldn't hear. During our engagement dinner, I went to the bathroom and heard Catherine talking to her friends. I don't know what Daniel sees in her. She's so common. And those hands, you can tell she works with them. What will people think? Amanda chimed in. She's obviously after his money. I mean, what else could it be? She probably saw dollar signs the moment he walked into her little garage. Even the wedding planning was a nightmare. Catherine took over everything, making decisions without asking me. Trust me, dear, I know what's appropriate for our family, she'd say whenever I suggested something. She picked the venue, their family estate, the flowers, the menu. Even tried to choose my dress. The only thing I put my foot down on was the guest list. I insisted on inviting my parents and my brother Jake, even though Catherine made it clear she thought they would embarrass the family. My parents, good, hardworking people who raised me with love and values, felt so uncomfortable around Daniel's family that they barely spoke at any of the pre-wedding events. My brother Jake was different, though. He'd served in the military with me years ago, and he was the only one who knew my real story. The night before the wedding, he pulled me aside. Sarah, are you sure about this? These people don't deserve you. They have no idea who you really are or what you've done for this country. That's the point, Jake. I told him, I don't want to be that person anymore. I just want to be Sarah, the mechanic who fell in love with a good man. But Jake looked worried. I've been doing some research on Daniel's business. There are people who want to hurt him, Sarah. His company has made some powerful enemies. I think you might need to be that person again soon. I brushed off his concerns. After everything I'd been through, all I wanted was a peaceful life. I thought my fighting days were over. The morning of my wedding dawned perfect and clear. I woke up in the guest house on the Harrison estate, sunlight streaming through expensive curtains. For a moment, I forgot about all the family drama and just felt pure happiness. Today, I was marrying the man I loved. My mother helped me into my wedding dress, a stunning white gown that even Catherine had to admit looked beautiful on me. It was elegant and simple, nothing too flashy, which was exactly my style. My mom's eyes filled with tears as she fastened the buttons. You look like a princess, honey, she whispered. Your father and I are so proud of you. My bridesmaids, my cousin Lucy, and two friends from back home were getting ready around me. They kept commenting on how beautiful everything was, how fancy the estate looked, how lucky I was. And I felt lucky. Despite Daniel's family's coldness, I was about to marry a man who loved me for exactly who I was. The ceremony was set for 4 o'clock in the mansion's back gardens. Catherine had hired the best wedding planners in the state, and I had to admit, everything looked like something out of a fairy tale. White roses everywhere, hundreds of chairs arranged in perfect rows, an arch covered in flowers where Daniel and I would say our vows. When it came time to walk down the aisle, my heart was pounding with joy. My father took my arm, looking handsome in his rented tuxedo, and whispered, "You ready for this, sweetheart?" I nodded, and then the music started. The doors to the garden opened, and I saw Daniel waiting for me at the altar. He looked incredibly handsome in his black tuxedo, and when our eyes met, his face lit up with the biggest smile I'd ever seen. The walk down that aisle felt like floating. There were nearly 200 guests, politicians, business leaders, socialites, all standing and watching as the mechanic married the billionaire. I could see Catherine in the front row, looking elegant but still somehow disapproving. Amanda sat next to her, whispering something to her friend, but none of that mattered when I reached Daniel. He took my hands and squeezed them, and for that moment, we were the only two people in the world. "You look absolutely beautiful," he whispered. The ceremony was perfect. We said our vows, Daniel promising to love me exactly as I was, me promising to stand by him through anything. When he slipped the ring on my finger, I felt like the luckiest woman alive. And when the minister said, "You may kiss the bride," and Daniel's lips met mine, I forgot about every cruel comment, every disapproving look, every moment of doubt. We were married. Against all odds, the small-town mechanic had married the billionaire, and it felt like a fairy tale. The cocktail hour after the ceremony was in full swing on the mansion's back terrace. Everyone seemed to be having a wonderful time. The champagne was flowing, the band was playing soft jazz, and the sunset painted everything in golden light. I was finally starting to relax and enjoy myself. Daniel and I were making our rounds, thanking guests for coming when I noticed something that made my blood run cold. There were waiters circulating with trays of champagne, but something was off about a few of them. Their posture was wrong, too rigid, too alert. Their eyes weren't focused on serving drinks. They were scanning the crowd, like they were looking for something. I'd seen that look before. It was the look of soldiers on a mission. I grabbed Daniel's arm. "Something's wrong," I whispered. He looked at me with concern. "What do you mean?" "Those waiters by the back door. They don't belong here." Daniel glanced over and then back at me with a gentle smile. "Honey, you're just nervous. It's normal to feel overwhelmed. This is a big day." I wanted to trust his judgment, but every instinct I developed during my military years was screaming danger. I started looking for exits, counting how many guests were between us and safety, noting where the security guards were positioned. That's when I saw my brother Jake across the terrace. He was talking to one of the real waiters, but his eyes kept darting around the crowd. He looked just as tense as I felt. Our eyes met across the crowd, and I could see he felt it too. Then everything happened at once. The lights around the terrace suddenly cut out, plunging us into near darkness, except for the string lights. In the trees, someone screamed. Glass shattered, and then I heard the voice that changed everything. "Everyone get down on the ground now." 6 men in dark clothing with masks covering their faces had appeared from different directions, surrounding the terrace. They all carried guns and they moved with the precision of a trained unit. These weren't random robbers. This was a coordinated attack. Guests began screaming and dropping to the ground. I saw Catherine faint dead away, crumpling to the terrace in her expensive dress. Amanda was sobbing hysterically, clutching at some businessman's arm. Daniel's father, William, stood frozen, his face pale with shock. "This is not a robbery," the leader announced, his voice carrying across the terrace. "We want everyone's jewelry, wallets, and phones. Move quickly and no one gets hurt." But I knew better. I'd seen operations like this before. This wasn't about jewelry or money. When professional soldiers, disguised as robbers, target a specific event like this, they're after something much bigger. Daniel pulled me close, trying to shield me with his body. "It's okay, Sarah. Just do what they say and we'll be fine." But I was already calculating 6 men, probably more. We couldn't see. Multiple exit points blocked. Innocent civilians everywhere. Who could get caught in crossfire? And Daniel, my husband of less than an hour, had no idea what was really happening. One of the men approached us, his gun pointed in our direction. "You pretty lady in the wedding dress. Take off that jewelry. All of it." I started to comply, removing my earrings and necklace with shaking hands. Daniel was fumbling with his watch, trying to get it off quickly. The gunman grew impatient. "Faster," he shouted, grabbing my arm roughly. The force of his grip tore the delicate fabric of my dress sleeve, ripping it halfway off my shoulder. And that's when something inside me snapped. The moment that gunman's hands touched me, 12 years of military training kicked in like muscle memory. The fear, the confusion, the helplessness, it all disappeared, replaced by cold, calculating focus. I'd been Staff Sergeant Sarah Mitchell, U.S. Army Special Forces before I became Sarah the mechanic. I'd served 3 tours in Afghanistan, led rescue missions behind enemy lines, and saved more lives than I could count. I'd retired after watching too many good soldiers die, seeking peace in my little garage. But peace was over. The gunman who grabbed me made a fatal mistake. He expected a terrified bride, not a trained killer. In one fluid movement, I grabbed his wrist with both hands, twisted sharply to break his grip, and drove my knee into his solar plexus. As he doubled over, gasping for air, I relieved him of his weapon, and brought the butt of the gun down on the back of his head. He crumpled to the ground, unconscious. The entire exchange took maybe 3 seconds. The other 5 gunmen froze in shock. Their partner had just been taken down by a woman in a wedding dress. Sarah. Daniel stared at me like he'd never seen me before, which in a way he hadn't, but I didn't have time to explain. The other gunmen were recovering from their surprise and raising their weapons. I shoved Daniel behind an overturned table and shouted to the crowd, "Everyone stay down," and crawled toward the house. "Move now." I could hear Catherine somewhere behind me, wailing, "Oh my God! Oh my God! What is happening?" 2 gunmen were advancing on my position. Using the unconscious man's weapon, I provided covering fire while the guests scrambled for safety. The beautiful wedding reception was transforming into a war zone. Flower arrangements exploding under gunfire, champagne glasses shattering, elegant tables splintering as bullets tore through them. My brother Jake appeared at my side, having disarmed one of the other gunmen. "I told you this was going to happen," he shouted over the noise. "Save the I told you so for later," I replied, reloading the weapon with practiced efficiency. "How many more?" I count 3 still active, but there might be more inside the house. I did a quick tactical assessment. The remaining gunmen had taken defensive positions behind the bar and some large planters. They were trying to control the exits to prevent anyone from escaping or calling for help. This confirmed my suspicion. They weren't here for a simple robbery. Thereafter, "Daniel," I told Jake, "this whole thing is a targeted hit." Daniel, still crouched behind the table, grabbed my arm. "Sarah, what are you doing? Who are you?" There wasn't time for explanations. One of the gunmen was flanking around the left side, trying to get behind our position. I could see Amanda and William huddled together near the house, both of them staring at me in complete shock. The woman they dismissed as a lowly mechanic was systematically dismantling a professional hit squad. "Daniel, I need you to get your family and move toward the house," I instructed. "Stay low, stay together, and don't look back. I'm not leaving you. You're not leaving me. I'm protecting you. There's a difference." I moved from our cover, using the overturned tables and scattered chairs as concealment. The gunman on the left didn't see me coming until it was too late. A quick takedown and he was unconscious next to his partner. That left 2 gunmen behind the bar. They'd stopped shooting, probably trying to figure out how their simple operation had gone so wrong. I could use that confusion to my advantage. What happened next would change everything between me and Daniel's family forever. Catherine Harrison, the woman who had spent months treating me like garbage, was cowering behind a decorative fountain with her daughter. Both of them were crying, makeup streaking down their faces, their expensive dresses torn and dirty when one of the remaining gunmen spotted them and started moving in their direction. I didn't hesitate. I sprinted across the open terrace, drawing fire away from them and toward myself. The gunmen's shots went wide as I dove behind the dessert table, our beautiful 3-tier wedding cake exploding in a shower of frosting and flowers. "Catherine, Amanda, move toward the house now," I shouted. But Catherine was frozen with terror, unable to move. The gunman was getting closer, his weapon trained on her. In that moment, I realized that, despite everything they'd put me through, I couldn't let them die. They were Daniel's family, which made them my family now. I flanked around the fountain from the opposite side. The gunman didn't see me until I was right behind him. One precise strike to his neck and he dropped like a stone. Catherine stared up at me from the ground, her perfectly styled hair disheveled, her face stray with tears and dirt. You saved us, she whispered. Can you walk? I asked, helping her to her feet. She nodded, still in shock. Amanda was clinging to my arm like a lifeline. This woman who had called me a gold digger just hours earlier. I'm sorry, Amanda sobbed. I'm so sorry for everything I said about you. We'll talk later, I told her. Right now, we need to get you safe. There was still one gunman left, and he'd retreated into the house. Jake had secured the perimeter and was helping the remaining guests evacuate, but we couldn't leave while there was still a threat inside. Daniel appeared at my side, looking at me with a mixture of awe and confusion. Sarah, I don't understand what's happening. How do you know how to do all this? I took his hands, my wedding dress torn and stained with grass and dirt, my hair falling out of its elegant updo. Daniel, before I was a mechanic, I was a soldier. Special forces. I've been trying to leave that life behind, but it looks like that life just caught up with us. His eyes widened. You were in the military for 12 years, 3 tours in Afghanistan. I retired as a staff sergeant and moved to Millfield because I wanted peace. I wanted to fix engines instead of other things. William Harrison, who had barely spoken to me during our entire engagement, stepped forward. You mean you've been trained for this? For combat? Yes, sir. He looked at his unconscious attackers scattered around the terrace, then back at me. You saved our lives. I saved my family's lives, I corrected. The sirens were getting closer, but we still had to secure the house. Jake and I moved through the mansion, methodically, clearing each room. We found the last gunman trying to escape through a back window. He surrendered without a fight when he realized he was alone and outgunned. By the time the police and FBI arrived, we had all 6 attackers secured and zip-tied with decorative ribbon from the wedding decorations. The agents were stunned to find that the victims had already handled the situation. Ma'am, can you explain what happened here? The lead FBI agent asked me. I looked down at my ruined wedding dress, then at Daniel and his family, who were all staring at me like they were seeing me for the first time. Some men tried to hurt my family, I said. Simply, I didn't let them. The investigation that followed revealed everything. The attackers weren't random criminals. They were hired mercenaries, sent by Harrison Tech's biggest competitor. Daniel's company had developed new technology that would revolutionize data security, and rather than compete fairly, their rivals had decided to eliminate Daniel permanently. The FBI agent who debriefed us, Agent Martinez, knew my military record. Staff Sergeant Mitchell, he said, shaking my hand. I've read